And now we're on record and live streaming at Thurston County District Court, picking up requests for protection orders. I'm just going to see who's all here. But actually, first off, Mr. Van Vechten, I see you're there, and I see that on case number 22315, Ms. Kirchhofer and Salinas is the other side that you're asking for a continuous, Mr. Van Vechten, on behalf of Mr. Salinas.
Yes, Your Honor. I just joined this case. Mr. Salinas just became aware of this case shortly after Christmas. And while I can tell from the record that this case has been continued multiple times before, that was purely because of an issue of service. And so I'm asking that there be a continuance to a point in mid-February. The only reason for
Ms. Kirchhofer, did you talk with Ms. Kirchhofer?
That is the other issue, Your Honor. Nothing was provided. Well, my client didn't receive a copy of the petition. What he received was a note in the door saying that there was paperwork for him. I went online to get the petition, but didn't see any contact information for her. So I haven't provided her with any notice of my appearance. I'm sorry, Your Honor. I'm not hearing anything.
Have you talked with Ms. Kirchhofer about your motion to continue?
No, Your Honor, I have no ability to contact her. There's no.
I'm trying to see if she's chimed in today before we can really take this up in substance. So maybe, no, that's not Ms. Kirchhofer. Well, it's 9:17. She's not here. All right, so it's been going on a while, since November. All right. Just looking at the docket here, this is the first service. No, this is the first time then, Mr. Van Vechten, that you and your client have been before the court, it appears, correct? Certainly correct. You, but I don't remember seeing your client here at any time.
He was not aware that this was going on. He was never served.
Right, all right, not present, not present. And I don't see Ms. Kirchhofer, and I don't see any note. Have you gotten any late breaking news from the petitioner here? And Ms. Kirchhofer is not in the courtroom. Anybody, Ms. Kirchhofer, not in the courtroom? Okay.
Move to dismiss.
Just trying to see if there's any information here as to why. We did. Let's see. Last time, December 27th, she was present by Zoom. Commissioner Wool was here, reissuance was signed. We reset this to today. I'm just going to look at all that, make sure we've got it right. And the reissuance was set for 9 a.m. via Zoom was allowed. Just looking at all the Zoom cells here. So, as to this matter that Mr. Van Vechten on 22315, I am going to dismiss the matter. Ms. Kirchhofer has not appeared at 9:18, and that's the petitioner. So I'll sign an order to that effect.
Thank you very much, Your Honor.
All right, and Mr. Salinas, then, if you have any questions, talk to Mr. Van Vechten, but this case number is dismissed at this stage.
Thank you, Your Honor.
The order expires now.
But Mr. Salinas, you and I should have a conversation following this hearing, okay? With Your Honor's permission, with Your Honor's permission, may we log out of this hearing?
Sure.
All right. Thank you, Your Honor. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. This thing can take forever. I've dismissed it. I'm just going to move on and remind me, fill that out later when we have time. All right, so let me see who's all here in the courtroom front here. Who's here for a hearing? And your name?
Well, on the petition order, it says Martin Porter. My name is Caroline Porter.
Porter? Okay. Let's see. Okay, number 9. So your name is Tyrhonda. Okay, so like it sounds. All right. And let me just and over here, your name? Okay, so the other side of that action potentially. All right, and then at the top, I see Mr. Crowner is here on behalf of Janelle Byers.
Yes, that's correct, Your Honor. And unfortunately, Miss Byers is not able to attend today. She's in the hospital with her son.
Okay, so you've got a motion to continue?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay, let me see, is Michael Gregg, I didn't see he was served. Were you able to perfect service?
No, unfortunately, Your Honor, we've had a difficult time doing that, and we believe that he is moved out of state. So we would request just a short continuance to confirm whether that's true or not. If that is true, we'll go ahead and then dismiss the petition voluntarily.
Okay, all
Or,
right.
sorry, dismiss the request for the petition.
Okay, so 22308, Mr. Crowner, and so your client, this is late breaking news. Your client's child is hospitalized and that's where she needs to be today?
Correct. Yeah, that's why she's not attending today.
Okay, I will grant your continuance request and looking at what? We're looking at January 23rd at 9 o'clock. Mr. Crowner, anything to say there?
Nope, that sounds great. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, and I'll sign an order to that effect.
Monday.
And that'll be in the court file for you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Your Honor. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay, bye.
All right, Sherry Bobbitt, Sherry Bobbitt
Yes,
on Zoom.
I'm here.
There you are. All right, and Jessica Collette, is Ms. Collette here on Zoom? Not in the courtroom. All right,
down.
come back to that. Let's see, I thought I saw Mr. Drury. Mr. Drury, you there?
Morning, Your Honor.
Hi, and that's your client with you, Ms. Sundbeck?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and then let's see, do we have Leanna Mysack, the attorney for Mr. Siller?
I have to call a fucking attorney, huh? Top attorney. And it was in the
Okay, looks like we've got, folks, just mute your microphones unless you're in a hearing with me. Mute your microphone, Ms. Warren, and the Shears, mute your microphones. All right, so Ms. Mysack, you're here. I see Mr. Siller's here. All right, I'm just trying to figure out who's all here and who's not at this stage. So Lee Squirrel present. Lee Squirrel. Don't see anyone here appearing on Zoom, not in the courtroom. Stephen Patton. See anyone here on that matter? Let's see, that is 22326. We're here December 27th. Petitioner was present. We reset this. We gave notice. We emailed the service packet again to the petitioner. No one's here on behalf of them. So on 22326, that is be dismissed as well. Petitioner did not appear, respondent did not appear. Okay, and I did see Ashley Bashirs or Brashears. Brett Mackey, is Brett Mackey present? Brett Mackey, 22337 is the case. Brett Mackey. I don't see, we'll come back to that. Maria De La Cruz, is Mario De La Cruz present with us? See that? If you see someone that I don't see, chime in. Mario De La Cruz is not present. Let's see. Hector Viacana, I don't see as present. 22339. It's 925. Let's see. 22339. There, we were here with the petitioner on the 27th. Respondent was present. At that point, he was in custody, we thought, at Thurston County Corrections Facility. We reset this for today at 9. It said it's 9:25. So Mario Jesus de la Cruz's petition is dismissed, 22-339, due to failure to appear. Right. And Justina Stoddart. Is Justina, I think I see you there. Justina
Yes, I'm
Stoddart.
here.
All right, you can mute your microphone now. And is Brian Clark?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, Brian Clark is present. You can remute. Thanks. I've got Ms. Johnson and Ms. Porter here in the courtroom. And then Katie Boren, I saw you there. And Melissa Ruiz. Don't see a Melissa Ruiz here today. All right, let me back up then and kind of take up cases where not both parties are present. So going back to the top, Ms. Bobbitt, why don't you unmute 22312?
Yes.
All right, so this is your request for an order against a Jessica Collette. I realized that you were in court previously, and it was found that Ms. Collette was not served then, and further efforts needed to be had. It got to Western State IC, but we have no evidence it got to her. So were you able to serve her, get it? Pardon?
Unfortunately, she was still in Western State Hospital until just a few days ago. Unfortunately, I had to go out of state. I had a brother who is.
You haven't served her any notice since the?
No, I just got back into the state 2 days ago. Is there any way I can get a continuance so I can try and serve her again? She is homeless at the moment, so it will take me a little while to find her.
All right, so I will give you another opportunity. It's just our second hearing on this matter. So we'll talk about a court date there. So if we set this out into, and you're saying a little bit of time, today is the 9th, our earliest is when? I'm looking at my clerk, 23rd. Okay, we don't have anything on there, or it's pretty open. Let's look at the weights in the calendar. Okay. Perfect. All right, if we set this to November 23rd, that gives you 2 weeks. Do you think you want more than that?
No, 2 weeks should be enough. Well, can we do at least 3 weeks? That would give me enough time. With her being homeless, it's going to take me a little bit to find her.
Yep, we can do that. We would go to the 30th of
That
January.
would be great. Yes.
All right, so we'll reset this November 30th. I'm going to sign an order resetting it to that, or you can just, yeah, the notice of hearing for November 30th, and then you need anything, are you going to, anything to send?
I'll send a service packet to the email.
And so Ms. Bobbitt, my clerks will send the service packet or what needs to get to Ms. Collette to you by email. So that email is the same?
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay. Your email is the same?
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right. That's it for today then, Ms. Bobbitt. We'll see you on November 30th.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. There, that one's. All right, back to Ms. Brashears, Ashley Brashears.
Yes, I'm present.
There you are. Okay, and taking up case number 22337. Can you give us a visual at all, Ms. Brashears?
I have personally been oral. I have not been able to serve the individual.
Can you give us a
We've
visual
been
on
able-
Zoom is what I'm asking you.
Oh, sorry. No, I am on audio. The Zoom was
I
not
know.
working and I called
you're
the
not-
clerk's
okay.
office.
All right, so, and I did see that. So you weren't able to get notice to this Brett Mackey. And
That's correct.
what are you asking to do today?
I'm asking to extend at least 2 more weeks. I'm working in Olympia Police Department also to attempt to serve, and they are having a hard time also.
Okay, so, and I will do that. So let's take time together here on this issue. So we will reset this. We're looking at earliest January 23rd.
Okay,
That's going to work for you at 9 o'clock in the morning.
that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay. I'm just piling these up just a little later because if you could just fill out, well, you don't know what all right, so I'm going to sign an order, Ms. Brashears, as to November 23rd will your next date, then you work on the service end and you can be on your way
Yeah.
today.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you. And then we got folks here, folks here. All right, and then Ms. Boren, you're there. Katie Boren.
Yes.
Can't hear you, Ms. Boren.
I don't know how to unmute my microphone besides pushing this button.
You got it this time. Good job. All right. So Ms. Boren, this is case number 22340. And we're here back in December. You weren't able to serve Melissa Ruiz, and I still don't have proof of that. Were you able to do that?
No, not yet, but I will be able to in just a couple days. And then I need
Okay, so you're
documents.
asking to reset this so that you can get her notice of the hearing and have a hearing.
Yes, please.
Okay, and we're looking at, as you've heard, maybe January 23rd is our first date setting. Is that enough time or do you need it later?
No, that'll be enough time.
Okay, all right, so we will reset to November 23rd. And that will be sent to you. The service packet, as we call it, will be sent to you by email. Is your email the same?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So that's it for today then.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. All right, I'm gonna narrow things down here. All right. So let me just kind of go through here. I'm going to talk to the cases there, folks who are all here, make sure everybody's ready to go, and then kind of get going from there. So going back to the top, Mr. Drury, Ms. Mysack. Hello, and your clients are both here. I see with you, Mr. Drury, and separately, Mr. Siller is here. So this is case 22-322, and Mr. Drury, you and your client ready to go forward to a full hearing today?
We are, Your Honor.
Okay, and Ms. Mysack, you and your client ready to go forward to a full hearing today?
Yes, Your Honor. Sorry, my audio wasn't working right then. Yes, we're ready.
Okay, all right. I'm just going to check with these other matters just so I know where we're headed, and I'll be back with the two of you. All right, let's see, Ms. Stoddard, Justina Stoddard. Where did you go?
Yes,
There
I'm
you
here.
are. Okay, and then Mr. Clark.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so Ms. Stoddard, are you prepared to go forward today to a full hearing for a decision to be made today?
Yes, please.
Okay, Mr. Clark, are you ready to go forward today?
Yeah, I'm ready. I haven't
Okay.
contacted legal counsel, but I want this to be behind us, so
Well,
I'm ready.
this is the deal. Today is the hearing, and whatever happens binds you. Maybe something you like, maybe something you don't like. But I don't want any equivocation. I need you to be certain, both of you. You know, if we get going and then all of a sudden you think, well, I should have brought this evidence, I should have sent that I should have had counsel, I should have, too late. So that's why I'm asking that question now. So.
Yep, I'm
Mr. Clark.
ready. I'm ready. Yes.
Okay. All right, because you mentioned you were thinking about having counsel.
No, I just saying. I just I'm fine.
Okay, so you're all right. That's your decision, but I just want to be sure you understand the possible consequences. And Ms. Stoddard, then you've filed several things with the court. Mr. Clark, have you taken the opportunity to review all of those things?
Yes, I have.
Okay, all right. Well, I will come back to you after I check with the folks in court, the last case on my calendar to make sure everyone's ready. So, Ms. Johnson, this is case number 22353, and I've got Ms. Johnson's over here. My calendar is anyway. So Ms. Johnson, are you prepared to go forward today? Okay, and we have here is Taronda
Correct.
Porter, and yet this is named as Margaret, so we're gonna have to kind of take that
That's
up.
my middle name.
Got it. Okay. So are you ready to go forward today? Okay. So neither one of you is going to say, oh, I wish I had called this other person, or I didn't look at all the things in the court file. Looked at everything in the court file, Ms. Porter? Good. And Ms. Johnson, you looked at everything and you're ready to present your case? I gotta, okay. All right. So let me get this done then. So I'm gonna start with the folks in court. Ms. Johnson, why don't you come on up and have a seat over here? And then Ms. Porter, have a seat over here, and oops, careful. And that red lighted thing is what's picking up. It's not amplifying, but it's picking up so we have a record. It's just so you know what that is. And this is case 22353. And what I'm doing here, I'm bouncing around. I have two screens, everything's electronic. And so I'm going to be looking back and forth. I am listening. But let me get all my documents up here. Give me a moment. Refamiliarizing myself here. Okay. All right, so let me put you both under oath. Since you're here, we can all do it the usual way. Have you stand up, and I'll start with you, Ms. Johnson, raising your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Thanks, Ms. Johnson. Have a seat. And then Ms. Porter, you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Thanks. Please have a seat. All right. So, Ms. Johnson, you started this action. We issued a temporary order against Ms. Porter. You make certain allegations within this. I've obviously reviewed your whole petition, reviewed all the information that you've supplied to the court, which is the petition. There weren't the other exhibits that the court was provided with for today. And so, is there anything else or something new or something you want to expound on? And one person at a time, and I will hear from you, but one person at a time and don't talk over each other. All right, Ms. Johnson.
What are you saying that you?
I've read your petition. I've read your petition. I've read everything you filed with the court thus far. And so I'm wondering, is there something else you want the court to consider? Looks like you have a whole file folder of information.
Because
So the problem is we also need that to give Ms. Porter a chance to review things so she's ready for today, and it's kind of tough. How many pages you got?
Oh, this is just my folder, but I just wanted to approach to be able to give you this.
How many exhibits do you have?
Well, the other ones to me just seem like it don't matter at the end of the day. They do matter because these are the printed out text messages.
It's up to you what you want the court to look at, but just so you know, everything the court looks at, we got to make sure Ms. Porter has a chance to review.
I was just not told that with that one packet that those things needed to be added at the time. Outside at that desk was telling me that at the time when I did my paperwork, that long as I had these items when I came to court.
Well, at the very least, we'll see how. So here, why don't you hand your folder up if you want the court to see all of that?
It doesn't matter because some of these are
It's up to you.
Okay.
It matters to you, then it matters to the court. I'm not going to look at anything. I'm not going to
No, you have
decide
mostly everything.
Okay.
But, let me
all
just
right.
be clear.
Yeah, just wander through that and see what you want the court to see. Sure, come on up. So this is the only thing you want the court, I don't want anything unless you want me to look at it.
This is basically my printout from my.
Okay, you want the court to have these, and this is part of your case. Okay, so looks like there's a letter from Sidewalk, Thurston County dispatch logs, screenshots of lots of text messages. Okay. All right, so I want Ms. Porter to have a chance to look at all of this and digest it and see how that changes her response, if at all. So, all right. So Ms. Porter, a couple of ways to do this. Usually if it was just a couple of pages and it was pretty
Ma'am, can I say
quick, then
something,
I would just hand things around and
Yeah.
take a break and take other cases. But I think what I'm thinking of doing is resetting this case so that Ms. Porter has an opportunity to review all this instead of just forcing her to go on the fly, because it's just slow down.
Mhm.
So that's where I'm headed right now. So Ms. Johnson, what do you think about that?
I just feel like we shouldn't be here, and I just want to be able to just say something where we can just end it quickly, not to waste your time, not to waste her time. I
You're
know
not
she has
wasting the
personal
court's
stuff.
time.
She is a loved one, and she is someone that I know prior to here, but I know when she gets upset, I may
So
have
let me
not
ask you
been.
that. Let me get to the end of that. Are you asking to not go forward on your petition to dismiss it?
Yeah, because I want to
Okay.
say what I have to say, because we have to get that now that we're here. I just feel like it's just petty to be here for both of us. I know she has things to do. I have things to do.
Well, it's your decision. If you don't want to go forward, this ends.
I mean, yeah, we here, but I don't want to make it just so big. But we both parties know what happened. I don't want it to be like blowed over just because we're in this state
Make it
to
bigger.
come in this court. I just know when we get mad, we do stuff. And I'm gonna forgive her. I'm not gonna ask nothing or require if she wants to say something, she can.
Okay.
But I probably shouldn't have got in her business of opening the door, but the consequences that I have to suffer behind me just trying to open my door for someone who at the time needed my help. I don't feel like Miss Porter should have took it all the way where she went with those text messages when I wanted to speak. I feel like she should have just
slow
listened.
down. The bottom line is you are running this show in the sense that whether this goes forward or not. And I'm hearing that you want to just make it end. Is that correct? So that means I would dismiss this. There would be no further order. The order would end today, and then the two of you just figure out how to live in the same world together in whatever way you want to. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, and I know we can do that because I don't want it to grow.
good.
If we didn't have this back home where we were, I don't want to come to Washington with this. And I know that she can do what she does and I can do what I do. And we can just settle that instead of coming back and forth and dragging this and dragging that. We both know where we are wrong at, and we both know that we can be adults and just walk our separate ways and do.
Mature. So I'm going to grant your motion to dismiss this order, dismiss this petition, sign off on an order to that effect, and that ends things today. I haven't looked at any of this. I could hand it back to you because it's not part of the case file at all. And then let me just pay attention to this long tome that says this is done and over, and then I'll give you both a copy. Okay, this is a very long order just to say this is over and the order's no longer in existence. And we're going to get to both copies of that, so you have it, do with it what you will. But then on that, once you have those copies, then you can both be on your way. So just give us a moment to get that done.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, hang on just a second. Okay, so let's come on up and get those handed out and then have a good rest of your day. Ms. Johnson, Ms. Porter. Thanks. Let me sign off.
Excuse me, who do I talk to about her giving me my son's shoes?
Pardon?
Who do I talk to about her return my son's shoes?
Nothing I can do. You can talk together. Just gonna look at some of these orders so I can get them to you. Here. All right, so back to the rest of our calendar here. Mr. Drury, Ms. Mysak, why don't we take your matter up? Ms. Sundvik, Mr. Siller or Seiler, I'm gonna find out how I should pronounce your name. And Mr. Seiler, is it Seiler or Siller?
It's Mr. Siller, Your Honor.
Siller, okay. All right, and then Mr. Drury, you're back with your client, Sundvik, and we're here on case 22322. And let me just get all my documents up and available. Just re-familiarizing myself after preparing the other day. Okay, so Mr. Drury, Ms. Mysak, then this is all about the Sundvik's petition. Temporary order was issued against Mr. Siller, and I've had the opportunity to look at, let's see, the last thing that was filed was Mr. Siller filed things around December 30th, that supplemental, a declaration, also by a brother or a family member, I believe it was. And petitioner's call log, petition, yep, I've gotten a look at both sides have put forward exhibits. So if in the discussions here today, if you want me to look particularly again at an exhibit, just help me out, tell me where to look. But I've got those that I reviewed previously too. So let me put everyone under oath. Ms. Sundvik, just in case you testify, I'm going to have you raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, Ms. Sundvik?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Siller, if you'd raise your right hand as well, if you testify, I'll need you under oath. So do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, Mr. Siller?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thanks. And then I'm just going to turn to the attorneys and they're going to kind of run their show and decide what evidence they present or not. But So, Mr. Drury, your burden today on your client's request for this order to go beyond today. There you go. Mr. Drury,
you.
you're on.
Thank you, Your Honor. And we do have a witness, Ariel Thomas. Does the court want to swear her in now and
Thank you.
put her in a breakout room, or does the court?
Yeah, let me put Ms. Thomas. I didn't realize that she was a witness, but now I know. Okay, Ms. Thomas, let me put you under oath now so I don't forget to do that. And then what we're going to do is put you in a what we call a breakout room. You won't be able to hear the proceedings, and when we need you, we'll bring you back in. All right, so you're not to come back in to the court physically or by Zoom or in any way until we bring you back in. All right. Okay, I see a nodding, but I need you to answer out loud.
Yes, yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so raise your right hand with me. Ms. Thomas, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. So now you'll get an invitation to a breakout room, accept that, and then that's just where you'll be. And you can do whatever you need to do until we need you. Don't go too far.
Thank you.
All right. Any witnesses, Ms. Mysack, I should know about? I didn't see anyone else.
No witnesses, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. So Mr. Drury, let me turn back to you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, if I could take testimony from my client just briefly.
Okay. So Ms. Sundvik, I'll have Mr. Drury pose questions.
And Ms. Sundvik, do you know the respondent, Jacob Siller?
Yes, I do.
And just so you know, can the court hear her okay at this point? Or?
Just keep going. It was a little soft.
A little soft. Okay. Just make sure to vocalize or get closer. So, and how do you know Mr. Siller?
I met him through work and then ended up in a relationship with Mr. Siller.
Yeah, I'm not able to get enough of a reading from your client. I don't know if your microphone can move or something, or you swap spots, or I don't know.
I could swap spots.
That's just a thought. So I'm presuming the microphone is attached or part of your laptop or your, yeah, maybe that's the way. Okay, let's try it again and see how we do now.
And you mentioned a relationship with Mr. Siller. Was that like a romantic relationship?
Yes, it was.
Is that better, Your Honor?
That is better, thanks. And Mr. Siller, Ms. Mysack, you're good? Hearing, thumbs up? Okay,
Yes, Your Honor.
good. Go ahead.
And where did you guys work at the same place?
Yes, we did.
Where was that?
Harbor Freight Tools.
And what was your position there?
I was a part-time associate.
And when did you take that job?
I got the job late May of 2022.
And you mentioned Mr. Siller. It sounds like he worked there as well.
Yes, he was my sales supervisor.
Was he in a position of authority for you at work?
Yes, he was.
And did he work there before you?
Yes, I don't remember how long he was at the company before I got there, but he had been working there a while.
And did he, I mean, as far as your role there, did he train you for your role or serve any role through you at work?
He did train me on cashier, and when he was the only leadership, he was my supervisor for the day.
Okay. Were romantic relationships at work allowed as far as you know?
Not when it comes to associate to leadership. They are not allowed.
Okay. And I want to get directly into your petition. Are you still together with Mr. Siller?
No, we are not.
All right. And why is that?
We broke up in mid-November. We were in a not good relationship, and it ended up getting a bit abusive. So our relationship did take an end.
Okay. And when you say a bit abusive, do you know the specific day that you would say you guys called it off?
It was the 14th of November, 2022.
Did anything happen that day that impacted your relationship with Mr. Siller, or was abusive?
The day that we broke up, I went to grab my stuff. He had told me to come grab my things. I had went to the closet to start grabbing my clothes that were hung up in the closet. He aggressively grabbed the collar of my shirt and pushed me against a wall and was trying to talk it out. I told him I did not want to talk about it. I just wanted to get my stuff and leave. He would not let me, and then I just ended up leaving without my stuff. He walked me down, I guess you could say, to my car. I did not want him to, and then he proceeded to stand in front of my driver's side door, not letting me leave for about 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay. Were you eventually able to leave that day?
Yes, he did end up going inside. I did get to leave. I began driving home. I ended up wanting to go on a drive just to clear my head. And then Mr. Siller began calling me over and over and over again, just demanding some of the stuff that I had that was his, and demanding we talk about it, and then proceeded to threaten me and threaten to break down my door and to take his stuff himself.
What specifically did he want, and what items did he want?
On closer to Halloween, we had gone to a EDM rave event. He had bought me a blanket that I wanted as a gift, and he had told me that if we broke up, in order to get my stuff back, I would have to give him back the blanket that he had bought me. I had agreed that I would bring him the blanket the next day. I wanted to bring someone with me. I didn't want to do it alone. I did not want to be alone with Mr. Siller again. And he just would not take that as an answer. He wanted the blanket right then and there that night.
Now, we've submitted this paperwork here, you know, I can probably show you as a call log.
Okay,
There's
we
one
can
of-
look at, come on. I'm looking at another screen here as everything's electronic. So the petitioner's call log, that's what we're looking at right now. And okay.
And
you're
it
with us,
should
Mr.
have like a
Isaac?
green 1021 at the top, just to make sure we're okay. And
Yes,
I want
that's
to
what I've
hand
got.
you that call log. Can you tell me what that is, Ms. Sundvik?
This is a photo of my call log on my phone from all the times that Jacob had called me the night of the 14th.
And did you take that picture yourself?
Yes, I went back and took a screenshot of the image.
And I showed some of the, it just says Jacob there, and then says FaceTime videos. Typically, is that, can you explain what that is?
Yes, so on iPhone, there's an ability to use FaceTime video where you can video chat to people. We would do either FaceTime video or just normal calls when calling each other.
And I note that some are white and some are red. What does that indicate?
The white ones are all the ones that I had answered, and then the red ones are ones that I didn't answer. As you can see, there's some that are a burst of 26 calls all at the same time that I did not answer any of them. The ones that I did answer, as you see, it's kind of sporadic throughout the call log. I was telling him to stop calling me and to please leave me alone. I just wanted space. I didn't want to talk to him. And it's one of the last calls that I did answer that he had threatened to kick in my door, and I proceeded to not answer any more phone calls after that.
That threat to kick in your door, did you believe that threat?
Yes, I did. I immediately turned around and immediately started driving back home.
Do you live within, like, where were you going when you say home?
I live with my father.
Okay. Now, is the 14th the last time that you communicated with Mr. Siller?
No, so I believe it was the 16th of November, 2 days later, I had not blocked him on Facebook Messenger yet, so he proceeded to call me on that about 10 or so times. I don't have the call log of that one. And he was claiming that he was at a mental hospital or something and he needed a ride. It was like 1 a.m. I just told him, stop calling me. Like, I'm not gonna go pick you up. Just leave me alone.
Do you know if he was in fact in a mental hospital?
I do not know for sure, no.
But did you not go to pick him up or go anywhere to see him?
No, I proceeded to block him on Facebook and everything else I had him on after that.
Okay. Now you mentioned this incident on the 14th. Is that the first time that is that the only time, I should say, that Mr. Stiller was abusive towards you?
No, it was not.
Can you explain or describe another incident from your memory?
There was an incident on September 22nd. I was going over to Mr. Stiller's house. We were planning on going to the Washington State Fair that day. We ended up getting into a small argument. I don't remember what started the argument, but we got into an argument. I ended up just being like, I'm just gonna go home. I'm gonna leave. I was standing, the door was behind me and I was standing in front of the door. And then in front of me is this kitchen table where my purse and my keys were sitting on the table. And Jacob was standing in between me and the table. I just wanted to get my purse and my keys so I could leave. He was not letting me get past him. I tried to just kind of scooch by him and he really aggressively put one hand in the front of my throat and the other in the back and proceeded to crush my throat very aggressively. He was yelling at me during this altercation and I was hearing his voice start to fade away as if I was slowly losing consciousness in a way. I did not end up I did not lose consciousness, but I did lose some feeling in my arm and in my leg. And I did feel a bit out of it for a second after he did end up releasing me.
Now, how did you get away, or how did that incident stop?
I was very much in shock after the incident has happened. I have never been in a situation like that. It was very scary and surreal. I ended up having a minor panic attack because of the incident. I didn't really know what to do. Mr. Stiller would not let me leave his house. He forced me to sit down at his dining room table with him and wouldn't let me leave until I calmed down because he was scared that I was going to go to the cops and get him arrested. I was too scared to do so at the time, so I never called the police and I never called anyone the day of the incident. We ended up just going to the fair and he spent a bunch of money on me and as just to make me feel better, I guess.
I apologize, John. So you guys did go to the fair that day?
Yes, we did go to the fair that day.
Now, did you guys ever talk about this incident or bring it up? You mentioned this was back in September 22nd, I believe. That other incident you mentioned was not until November 14th. So you guys, were you still an item over that period of time?
Yes, we were.
Did you guys talk about that incident at all while you were a couple?
There was a few times it was brought up. Mr. Stiller always brushed it under the rug and acted as if it wasn't that big of a deal. I always tried to just let him know that it was very serious to me. It really bothered me, and I still think about it a lot to this day. It still sticks with me. It's just really terrifying. I didn't like the experience that I had to go through.
Is that as far as choking or blockage of an airway, is that the only time that that's happened in your relationship?
There was one other time that he had put me into a
Let me stop you
choke.
there, Mr. Drury. And it's fine if Ms. Mysak and Mr. Stiller don't, but I'm wondering when they turn off their cameras, I'm not sure if they're still with us in the hearing. So I need to know that.
Sorry, Your Honor, I had
So-
a brief lapse in Wi-Fi. Back.
Okay.
I don't think I missed
so,
anything.
That's okay. Well, I'll always kind of look for that and make sure that you're still with us as if you're here in court. So you need to, other than collapses and Wi-Fi's, please keep the cameras on and stay with us, both Mr. Siller and Ms. Mysak. So, all right, going back to Mr. Drury, in your case, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. And I'll just reiterate that last question. As you mentioned an incident of choking on September 22nd or restriction of an airway. Is that the only time in your relationship that happened with Mr. Siller?
There was another time, I don't remember the exact date of this one. He had put me into a chokehold. We were kind of just hanging out at his house. He was tickling my legs. My legs were twitching and it kind of impulse kicking because that's how my body was reacting to it. I had warned him that I may accidentally kick him. I did accidentally kick him about right here. And I immediately apologized, but he also immediately ran around the bed and put me into a chokehold. My arm actually got stuck up in the chokehold and squeezed my arm very bad to where my arm was sore for the rest of the day.
How long did that chokehold last?
That one, I believe, only 10 to 15 seconds. He wasn't really restricting my airways, but he did put me in a dramatic chokehold.
Now you mentioned that you guys were kind of tickle fighting. Is it possible that during that incident that Mr. Siller was just being playful or playing along?
No, he was immediately he has very particular anger where all of a sudden his whole demeanor will change in a snap, and all of a sudden he was just extremely angry and just immediately put me in a chokehold. I immediately started crying after the incident.
Were there any injuries to any of these, like physical injuries on any of these two incidences with restriction of airway?
No marks were ever left. There wasn't anything really left over from it. Just the choking one, I had a sore throat, and then the chokehold, my arm was sore.
And you mentioned in your petition damage to your car. Not to skip around, but can you explain what you mean by that?
Yes, we had planned a trip to Oregon. We were planning to go to the zoo and look at a flower garden. Mr. Siller did not tell me how he was unhappy with what I was wearing that day. Instead, just kind of held it in until we were already in Oregon and proceeded to get very angry with me about what I was wearing and calling me disrespectful for what I was wearing. I decided that I was just going to begin driving home because I don't want to be in Oregon with someone who's making me feel like shit about myself. And so I began driving home. This made Mr. Siller very angry. He was acting as if I had just wasted his time and wasted his day. We drove all the way to Oregon for nothing. And he proceeded to get very angry and start violently punching the dash of my car in front of the passenger seat. And he did this in 2 bursts. He did it in 1 burst of just punching it over and over and over again. And then he kind of stopped for a minute and then did it again, as well as just kind of screaming at me. After this, I was kind of just over it, and I was just trying to tune him out. I was just kind of like, I was just making funny noises, like no, like just stop talking, basically just trying to get him to be quiet. And that was just making him more angry, and he ended up threatening to punch me in my jaw.
And that threat to punch you in the jaw, in that situation, did you believe that threat to be credible?
Yes, I did. He wanted me to shut up. He had threatened to punch me in the jaw because of what I was saying, and so I immediately decided to just be quiet.
Now, was there any damage to your car from that incident?
Yes, there was obvious marks from where he had punched my dash very aggressively.
And did you take video of that damage?
I did take a video of the damage to my car. I took a video like 2 days after it or the night of. I can't remember the exact day. I took a video of it.
Okay. And did you submit that video to the court?
Yes, I did.
Um, going to back around the day when you guys, I guess, when would you say you officially were no longer an item or no longer in a intimate relationship with Mr. Siller? Is there a specific day?
November 14th, 2022.
Did you guys, I mean, but you've been working together at that time. Did you guys still work together at that time?
Yes, we did still work together.
Okay. And how was it going to work with Mr. Siller? Had things changed after that last incident?
So my first day back at work, with us not being in a relationship anymore, I was planning on just staying away from Mr. Siller as much as possible. There were other leadership there. I did not have to fully take authority to just Mr. Siller. He is on sales side. I'm on logistics, so he is not technically my supervisor if there's a logistics supervisor there. And so I was just trying to avoid him and help. We were resetting some of the tables and fixing things up. So I was just trying to help with them. Mr. Siller just would continuously follow me around. He was not leaving me alone. I was very visibly, I didn't want him near me. I just wanted to be civil and just work around it and not have to deal with it. He was very persistent. He ended up just following me around and would touch me inappropriately at work. I was very uncomfortable with it. I ended up telling a few people. I told Ariel that I was very uncomfortable, my coworker, because I was just so uncomfortable. I didn't know what to do. No one at work had known at this point, so I couldn't have made a scene about it. I didn't feel comfortable doing that.
And well, it sounds like you were speaking to Ariel. Is that somebody that you work with?
Yes.
As far as at work, did she know about this stuff at that time?
Yes, Ariel was aware of mine and Mr. Siller's relationship at this point.
Okay, but nobody else.
There was one other coworker as well. His name is Kevin Houston.
At any point did you report this relationship to management?
The first day that I reported it to management is the day that I went to get the restraining order, and I was approved for the temporary and was waiting for for Mr. Siller to be served. I went up to my boss, the store manager, and just told him the whole situation, and I just didn't know what to do.
Okay. Are you still at that same company?
Yes, I am.
And at the same location?
Yes.
Is Mr. Siller at that location anymore?
No, he is not.
You mentioned as well in your petition threats to kill. Did those occur during your relationship with Mr. Siller?
Yes, there would be multiple occasions where if there was anything that made him think that I was going to leave him, he would threaten to kill me, that I wasn't allowed to leave him. There was other times where if there was a talk about potentially me being pregnant, and if I aborted the child, he would kill me. There's just a lot of different things. He had also threatened to, if I had gotten him fired, that he threatened to beat up a bunch of people at work and make my life hell, in his words.
Considering Mr. Siller's physical size compared to you, are you able to defend yourself physically against Mr. Siller?
No, I am not. And Mr. Siller had proven to me on multiple occasions that he could physically easily overpower me. He practices at a boxing ring. Not a boxing ring, a fighting place. I don't remember the exact name of it, but he practices fighting, and he's a lot more stronger than me. I'm a small girl. I'm only 5'3". I weigh 120 pounds. I'm a very easy person to overpower, and Mr. Siller is a very strong man. I do not feel safe around him.
And those threats to kill, when they were given, did you believe those threats?
Yes, I did.
Since that temporary order was entered, has Have you had any contact from Mr. Siller that you're aware of?
I have not had any contact.
Okay. Have you reported to law enforcement any of these incidences that you've described?
I had went to report it to law enforcement about 2 weeks ago. I had called, I had spoken with an officer to go in and write a statement. The day I went in to go write the statement, the officer was not in at that point. I asked if I could just write the statement to leave. They didn't really know how to help me, so they gave me the officer's email. I never got around to reaching out. The officer did tell me that there wasn't a likelihood of charges coming from it, so I did not think it was that important to follow through with it.
And just going back, I'm going to hand you what's been marked as Petitioner's Exhibit 3. Can you describe what that is?
So this is just some of the text messages from me and Jacob. Mr. Siller had included his own sets of text messages. The only thing is he has 2 phone numbers. I have both of his phone numbers saved under the same contact. As you can see, the blue and green bubbles, those are 2 different phone numbers. Mr. Siller included all of the blue messages in his documents, but failed to include the other ones where he tries to paint as we had a great relationship, but fails to include the time that he told me that all of my stuff was thrown in the trash and I would have good luck fishing it out because I didn't immediately bring him his blanket.
And are you referring to the exhibits filed by respondent, the text messages that were filed by respondent?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, we asked, I'm all done with my questions for Ms. Sunvik, but I'd asked to admit the call log is Respondent's Exhibit 1, the video of the dash cam, which was submitted into evidence as Exhibit 2, and then this text message conversation as Petitioner's Exhibit 3.
So is MISAC as to those requests for admission?
I just want to clarify that these are the ones that were already given to me, the call log and the other 2, Mr. Drury.
Those are the same
court
exact
file?
documents.
Okay.
They're the only things I see in the court file.
Okay, then no objection.
Okay, so those will be the petitioner's call log is 1, the damages video is petitioner's Exhibit 2, the petitioner Exhibit 3 continues to be petitioner's Exhibit 3 admitted now. Right. And so any cross-examination, Ms. MISAC?
Yes, Your Honor, very briefly. Miss Sunvik, I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly. I'm sorry. You had mentioned that Jacob is in more of a supervisory role, right?
Yes.
Or was, I guess was. So the 2 of you had to kind of keep your relationship a secret, otherwise he would get in trouble. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. And you, partially because of that, pretty much only hung out at where he lives, right?
Well, that was because I live with my father and I don't like bringing other people to my dad's house.
Okay. But generally, to hang out, you would go over to his house, right?
Yes.
Okay. And when you would go over to hang out to his house, or his apartment, you would text him when you got there so that he let you in, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And Your Honor, I'm looking at Respondent's Exhibit number 1. Is that what you were doing in these text messages when it says walking up?
Yes.
Okay. And these are dated throughout the month of September, correct? Until
Yes.
September 21st. Okay.
So let me slow you down there, Ms. Mysack, so I know what I'm looking at. I don't
That's
have
okay.
anything labeled exhibit one. I have respondents exhibits, and then I have the declarations and supplemental declaration. So when I've got a lot of screenshots of text messaging, is that what you're referring to?
Yes, I had listed respondents exhibit number 1 in the upper left-hand corner, but it might not look like that for you.
Ah,
But
I do see it. No,
okay.
thanks. I do see it. Thanks for
Okay.
pointing that out. All right, go ahead.
No worries. So you continued to visit his apartment throughout the month of September, correct?
Yes.
And after the month of September, correct?
Yes.
September was the month that you stated that that first choking incident happened. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Looking at respondents exhibit number 2, these happened beginning of November. You told him that you loved him on November 3rd, also on November 3rd, that you're coming over and that you're walking up, again, a sign that you're over at his house, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now looking at respondents exhibit number 3, can you, where it says chess, these are games that you can play, correct? And they kind of bounce back and forth between each player?
Yes.
Okay, so you had been playing games with Mr. Siller on November 4th, and it looks like on November 6th as well.
Yes.
And you had went over to his house on November 5th, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And again, on respondents exhibit number 4, this is dated November 10th. Looks like you are in Lakewood, and he kind of says, well, he has to wake up early, so you'll just have to hang out another time. Is that correct?
Yes.
But you responded, why? As an indication that you would have preferred to hang out on November 10th, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And looking at respondents exhibit number 5, this one's a little bit blurrier, but I believe it says November 12th. But right above that says walking up. So you had visited Mr. Siller either on November 12th or probably 11th or something a little before then, correct?
Yes.
And you had played games with him on November 12th.
Yes.
So when you would go over to his house, you would see his brother there, correct?
Yes.
Okay. His brother lives with him, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So it's safe to say that up until November 14th, you continued to visit Mr. Siller at his apartment, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm looking at respondents exhibit number 6. Respondents exhibit 6, excuse me. This was Monday, November 14th, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and this is the day that the relationship ended, right?
Yes.
Okay. He states to bring him his blanket, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then the next day on November 15th, he states, message me when you're here. I'll set your stuff outside for you, or you can bring it down if you'd prefer that. I love you. I'm really sorry we couldn't work this out. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay, so it's fair to say that Mr. Siller was kind of the one to cut off this relationship. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. And then it looks like a little bit later, maybe an hour or so after, Mr. Siller states on the same day of November 15th that you can keep that blanket, that was a gift for you, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if we look at respondents exhibit number spot 7, this is on another platform, correct? Than the last one?
No, it is on the same.
It looks like, oh, you're right. But at the very bottom, it states this contact has been blocked. This typically happens when one person blocks another person's contact, correct?
Yes.
Okay. But despite the breakup, do you two continue kind of playing games back and forth?
No, we played games in the early day of November 14th, but after the breakup, we did not play any more games after that. I had blocked him.
Okay. But these being Mr. Siller's screenshots, it's fair to say that you were blocked as well, because I had gotten them from him, but that's what it looks like down at the bottom where it says this contact is blocked, correct?
Yes, but that can also show up when it can be there. He could have blocked me the day he took the screenshots and then it would show up. On mine, I don't get that notification on my iMessage. It does not say that. I'll get an option to unblock if I look at it a different way, but it doesn't pop up on the message bar.
Correct. I just wanted to know if that's what that meant down there. Now I'm looking at respondents exhibit number 8. He states, can you please come get your stuff? I don't want to throw it away. And then you state, can we please just talk about this? So is it fair that he wanted this relationship to end and you maybe did not as much?
It definitely went back and forth. This relationship should have ended months and months before this day. I was very much just stuck in this abusive relationship. I didn't know how to get out of it. I didn't understand how to live outside of it.
I'm sorry to cut you off. Just when he sent this message, when you said, can we please just talk about this? At that time when he sent that, you possibly wanted to keep this relationship going.
I wanted to talk to him about it because he was not having a stable conversation with me about it when we were breaking up.
Okay, but you wanted to talk, and he was letting you know, no, I'm done. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. And I just want to reiterate, you had submitted that call log where you shows that Jacob had called you a few too many times, correct? It's one of the things that you submitted. And I just want to reiterate that after that, or even a day after that, you hadn't heard from him since all of this had happened. Is that fair?
No, I did not hear from him.
Okay. You no longer work with Mr. Seller, correct?
Not after the order was placed.
Okay. He had left, correct?
He was given the option to transfer, I do believe, and he decided to quit.
Okay. Your Honor, I have no further questions for petitioner.
Any redirect, Mr. Gurry?
Just briefly, I just want you to do as best you can with this answer, but you were asked a question regarding staying in the relationship, and you mentioned in a way, and I might not have quoted it exactly, but you didn't know how to get out of it or something to that effect. Can you explain that a little bit more at that point?
Yes, I am aware that, yes, Jacob would have been the one to get in trouble, being that he was the authority in our relationship given at work. But I was also nervous because I was also technically in the wrong being in the relationship. I was scared I would lose my job as well. With my workplace, I was also I didn't know how to leave it in general. He had threatened to kill me if I had left the relationship on multiple occasions. I felt scared and I didn't know what else to do. I felt kind of stuck for a few months. I there was a few months I didn't want to be in the relationship anymore, but I just didn't know how to get out.
That's all I have, Your Honor. I would like to call Ariel, and I'm forgetting her last name now, Miss Thomas.
Thomas, okay. So we've got her in a breakout room. Ms. Thomas is in the breakout room, so we can allow her out now. Takes I don't know how long, 30, 40 seconds for it to come in. So we'll just pause. Okay. And Ms. Thomas, you can unmute and join the hearing. All right, so Mr. Drury is going to be asking you some questions, and then Ms. Mysack will be allowed to do so thereafter. And we've already put you under oath. So, Mr. Drury.
Thank you, Your Honor. And Ms. Thomas, if you have difficulty hearing me, just let me know, okay?
Will do.
Thank you. Ms. Thomas, do you know Jacob Siller?
I do.
How do you know him?
I used to work with him
And where is that?
at Harbor Freight Tools.
And do you know Miss Ashley Sundvik?
I do.
And how do you know her?
I also work with her.
And how did you work at Harbor Freight prior to Miss Sundvik?
Yes.
Okay. And how would you describe your relationship, if any relationship, with Jacob Siller?
I wouldn't say we were close friends, but we were friends at work. And I've known him for probably about a year or so.
Okay. And how would you describe your relationship with Ashley Sundvik?
We're friends at work.
Okay. Now, were you at any point made aware of allegations by Miss Sundvik that she was being assaulted or abused in a relationship?
I was.
Okay. And when sorry. And about when was that?
That would have been around late September, early October timeframe.
And what were you told?
I was told of 3 separate instances where Mr. Siller had put his hands around her neck and choked her 3 separate times.
And who told you that?
Miss Sundvik.
Now are you aware that she eventually applied for a no contact order?
Yes.
And did you speak with her at all about domestic violence or about abuse in relationships?
I did. I actually encouraged her to get a restraining order.
Okay. And did she seem hesitant to do that, or how did she appear to take that advice?
She was very hesitant at first, yes.
Did she give you a reason?
She was in fear of losing her job and getting in trouble.
And do you recall the last day that you saw Mr. Siller and Miss Sundvik at work together?
I do. I don't remember the exact date, but it was sometime maybe mid-November.
Can you describe how they appeared to be around each other that day?
Miss Sunvik was very irritated at work. Mr. Siller was following her around, trying to make amends over a fight that they had. And she wasn't having it. She was just really upset and irritated. And she told him to leave her alone, and he then appeared to be very aggressive and hostile towards everybody in the workplace.
Okay. Did it appear to be like a playful thing at all, or that the two were?
No.
Did Miss Sunvik talk to you about that?
She did afterwards, yes.
And what was the substance of what she said?
She had told me that they had gotten into a fight the night prior, and that was the last time he had physically assaulted her. She was, at that point, she was just over it. She wanted to be done with the relationship. Like I said, I think he was trying to make amends, and thought everything was going to go back to normal. It did not. She asked me what to do, and I said, you need to go file for a restraining order, protection order. And once that's in place, then be done with it.
Thank you. That's all I have, Your Honor.
And is Mysak, any questions of Ms. Thomas?
Yes, Your Honor, just very briefly. Ms. Thomas, you stated you work with both Jacob and Ashley, correct? That's correct. When you stated that their relationship, that you know that their relationship was more of a secret, correct? That's correct. Okay. But your friendships with both of them were both friendships that were at work, correct? That's correct. Okay. So you've never really spent considerable time with both of them outside of work, right? I've given Mr. Siller ride homes. That's the only time outside of work. Okay. So you've never witnessed Mr. Siller choke Miss Sunvik, correct? I've never witnessed anything, no. You've never witnessed any abuse by Mr. Siller to Miss Sunvik, correct? That's correct. Okay. And all of these accusations were told to you by Miss Sunvik, is that correct? That is correct. I have no further questions.
Any redirect, Mr. Drury?
I don't think so, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Drury, any objection to excusing Ms. Thomas?
To what, sorry?
Excusing Ms. Thomas, or would you like
No.
her to remain in a breakout room?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Mysak, any objection to the court excusing Ms. Thomas and allowing her to be on her way?
No objection.
Okay, so what that means, Ms. Thomas, is you can leave Zoom and leave this hearing altogether, or you can watch on YouTube. It's up to you. All right,
Okay.
but you're not expected to be called back to testify.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, back to you, Mr. Drury. Any other information for the court?
Your Honor, that's all I have.
Okay, Ms. Mysak, let me turn to you then. What would you like to do at this stage?
I have a few questions for Mr. Siller.
Okay, Mr. Siller, we've already put you under oath, and your attorney is going to be able to ask you some questions. Mr. Drury will be allowed to ask you questions as well. So Ms. Mysak, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll begin by letting the court know that Mr. Siller has uploaded a declaration and a supplemental declaration, so I'm not going to have him testify to what the court has already read, but just to highlight some of the few key points that I think are important. Jacob, can you describe to me how often the petitioner would come over to your place?
Yes, Ashley would come over, stay the night 3 to 4 nights a week, and she was probably hanging out 5 to 6 days a week over at my place.
Okay, tell me when this started and when this stopped.
We started dating about the end of summer. I want to say June, and we finished dating November 14th.
Okay, and describe to me whether you had any indication that Miss Sunvik was unhappy in the relationship or that anything had happened that indicated to you that she didn't want to come over anymore.
I had nothing. We had a pretty solid relationship from my point of view. We went out on a bunch of dates. She came over, stayed the night on a regular. We had a bunch of stuff over here that was like her clothes, basically a good night, over the night bag. But it seemed all right to me.
Okay. So describe to the court why you had broken up with Miss Sunvik. Now that went.
Ashley and I, we had our minor hiccups, but one of the things I'd consistently bring up to her is she was pretty bad with like name calling and also what she thought was playful hitting. I didn't think was playful hitting. Ariel had witnessed this before at work where she had like kicked carts into my legs, stomped on my feet, little things like that she thought was playful, but mostly it was just bickering is why we ended.
Okay. And then tell the court, I guess, how you had broken up with her.
We had come to my place arguing. She had been calling me every name in the books, insulting everything about me. When we got here, a little bit more arguing. My brother was here at the time. We broke up and I walked her down, let her go home.
Okay. And how long after this breakup were you served with a temporary protection order?
I don't remember the exact date. It was a few days after that.
Okay, about 2 to 3 days, would you say?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you surprised to see this temporary protection order? And if so, tell the court why.
I was absolutely surprised. Again, Ashley and I had a pretty solid relationship. We hung out all the time. Seemed like things were good. Seemed like things were good at work. This is also dropped at me when I was in the middle of my work shift, so I got sent home. Yeah, pretty much super surprising.
Okay. And again, just to reiterate, is there anybody that you two had spent time with outside of work besides really your brother?
No, we didn't spend time with anybody. We knew that her older sister was my direct manager, so we knew that I would be the one to get in trouble if anybody knew we were dating.
Okay. And your brother had provided a declaration to the court, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Since the breakup, what steps have you taken to distance yourself from the petitioner?
So since the 16th, which is the last night I had any contact with her, I blocked her on all social media platforms. I've changed jobs. I now work in Centralia. I've done everything I can to stay away outside of moving out away from the state.
Okay. Tell the court whether you desire to stay away from Miss Sunvik, whether there is not a protection order. Do you have any desire to be around Miss Sunvik?
No, I do not.
Okay. Your Honor, I do not have any further questions.
Mr. Drury, any questions of Mr. Siller?
Just briefly, Your Honor. Mr. Siller, you described this breakup on the 14th as just kind of this sort of uneventful situation where you guys broke up and you said you let her go to her car. You walked her out at that time. Is that right?
Correct.
Right. And then that same day, that's the day of this uneventful sort of normal breakup, and then you go ahead and call her about 40 times the same day. Is that correct?
Correct.
You were told multiple times during that to stop calling. Is that correct?
Yes.
But you kept calling.
Yes.
You also submitted some text messages. Did you review the text messages you submitted as part of the evidence?
I don't understand what you're asking.
Did you review the text messages you submitted as part of the evidence?
I submitted everything that I had, every single message to my attorney.
Okay.
On all platforms.
On the November 15th messages you submitted on, it looks like Exhibit 6, they start, "Come over, you're being stupid, you better bring my blanket." Ms. Sunvik mentions you will get it tomorrow. Prior to that, you omitted the text message where you said, "Your stuff is in the trash, good luck fishing it out." Do you remember sending that text message?
I did send that text message.
You did not submit that as part of your text message discovery?
I submitted every single message that Ashley and I had exchanged, whether it was on my iPhone or the work phone number I have.
But not that text message?
Again, I submitted every single message from all platforms.
Your Honor, can I make a record?
And what would
I
that
don't want the
record be?
court to be misled. I think Mr. Drury and Mr. Stiller are talking about two different things. Mr. Stiller, Mr. Drury is referring to the text messages that Mr. Stiller and I had submitted together to the court. Mr. Stiller and I had gone over additional text messages that was submitted to me. I don't want Mr. Drury to lead the court to believe that Mr. Stiller himself had submitted these text messages when counsel did.
I figured that. And I was wondering, Mr. Drury, maybe to be more specific, are you referring to petitioner's exhibit number 3 in part of this questioning?
Yes, Your Honor. We submitted petitioner's exhibit number 3, and then just in comparing that to respondent's exhibit number 6, we were noticing the difference there, that it appeared that text message, as I followed the stream of text messages, that particular text message was missing. So the conversation that was submitted was not complete. So that was my point. But counsel's right. I'm not sure if it's Mr. Stiller giving the text messages to his attorney and then his attorney filing it. And obviously, I'm sure the attorney filed the text messages. Can I continue is the court clear, or does the court need?
Yeah, I'm more clear. Thank you. And when you're referring to, just try and throw out an exhibit number or where you want me to look.
Sure. I think I failed to mention petitioner's exhibit 3 on that. Mr. Stiller, did you contact my client on or about the 16th of November and indicate to her that you were in a mental health institution?
I did. So the night of the 16th, I drank in a little bit, and I'd walked myself to a behavioral hospital just because Ashley and I had a very good relationship. I don't really got anybody to talk to, so I need somebody.
Did you ask her to come pick you up at that time?
I did.
Okay. And did you then, I guess, get counseling there or help or?
Yeah, didn't seem too helpful to me, but they did what they could. They gave me a listening ear. That was enough.
I'm sorry, they gave you a.
They just heard me out. Really, is all it was.
Gotcha. No, that's all I have.
Any redirect, Ms. Mysat?
Yes, briefly. Jacob, in looking at the call log and looking at the messages that Mr. Drury is referring to when you had called her and when you had stated that you were in a mental health facility, you're not denying that those things exist, correct?
Not at all.
Are you seeing them in a different light now than you did during that day, though?
I don't think at the time the way I called her was okay, but once this protection order was dropped on me, I understood exactly what was going on. I've done everything I can to stay away. Don't want any more contact.
It's fair to say that those messages happened on the night of a breakup and that you were emotional, but you have a clear head now. Is that fair?
That is fair.
Okay. Mr. Siller, do you need a protection order in order to stay away from Miss Sunvik?
I don't think so. I don't understand. What do you mean by that? Like one on her?
I'm asking, can you stay away from Miss Sunvik without the court granting a protection order?
100%.
Okay.
I work in a different city. I resigned from my position. Again, outside of moving outside of the state, there's not much more I could do to stay away.
Okay. Your Honor, I don't have any further questions.
So, Ms. Mysek, any other information or evidence to present to the court?
Nothing further for respondent.
Okay, and then just Mr. Drury, any rebuttal of any kind, any other information to support your petition?
No, Your Honor, just closing statements if we can.
Okay, all right. So we'll move on to that. Mr. Drury, I'll hear from you, and then Ms. Mysek, I'll hear from you. And Mr. Drury, go ahead.
Your Honor. Well, the court heard from, obviously, in writing from my client through the petition, as well as through her testimony and sort of corroborative testimony in Miss Ariel Thomas. My client described a multitude of different incidences, a few involving strangulation or blockage of an airway, which are very serious matters and punishable at law. If that were to happen, as very serious matters. My client described in one particular incident losing feeling in her extremities, feeling like she was about to black out. And when she described these incidents, she also described a headlock or some type of like an arm bar on her for Mr. Siller during arguments, and as well as threats, intimidation. We see the call log, and I understand that may be around a breakup. So, passions are high or emotions are high at that point. But that's pretty out of the ordinary for that to occur, like in that situation. But more to the point, and I understand that these are denied by Mr. Siller, but she's able to go back and identify specific incidences, going to fairs, dates, things that were said during these incidences. And most importantly, I think she spoke to somebody, Ms. Thomas, about this at work about a month and a half prior to ever filing anything, and disclosed these incidents to her friends at work. While that is obviously, a statement from my client to another, the fact that Ms. Thomas was able to reiterate that these things were told to her long before my client ever filed, and my client sat on it. And there's some cross-examination, it can be typical in these matters for a person like my client that did not come right out and just leave the relationship. Why wouldn't she do that? Well, that is also not a very unique situation where somebody is suffering from this type of abuse or from this type of serious domestic violence, to not go to the cops right away, to try to stick out the relationship, to try to act like things are normal within the relationship when they are very much not normal. It was after a conversation she had with Ms. Thomas that she finally realized that she needed to end this thing and go file for protection. I understand, Mr. Siller may be able to stay away without a protection order, but that's not really the test or the relevant inquiry here for for the court today. The question is whether my client suffered abuse or domestic violence and needs a protection order, and whether or not with those threats to kill, my client felt that they were true and that they were going to happen, threats of violence. My client did. She testified to all that, and she feels she very much needs protection to go on with her life, to be protected by this court. This is a young lady that's suffered some pretty serious events here. And I think we've established enough corroborative evidence to show through her testimony, through her friend's testimony, through the written material that was provided to require a protection order here, Your Honor. We'd ask the court to grant one.
Hey, Ms. Maisa?
Thank you, Your Honor. Counsel mentioned counsel and petitioner mentioned a few different instances. One of them, choking, where the petitioner states that she lost feeling in her arm and her leg. Seems pretty severe. I'm a little confused as to why there wouldn't be a mark. If that were true, I understand that marks don't always appear, but that seems to be a pretty severe instance of choking. She additionally mentioned that she was put into a headlock, that there were threats made, intimidations made. We don't have any proof of that. None. We have text messages, and in any of those text messages, I don't see any proof of any threats made. The only threat that I see possibly could be putting her stuff in the trash, which I think that we can all equate to tensions running high. There was just a breakup. We heard from Ms. Thomas, who worked with both parties. She had a working relationship with them only. She never hung out really with either party other than maybe giving Mr. Siller a ride home outside of work. She never witnessed them in a non-professional setting. Really, a better witness is Isaac Siller, who had provided a declaration to this court. That's Mr. Siller's brother. He lives with Jacob, and as the court can tell through the text messages, the petitioner spent considerable time at the respondent's house. If all of these things were going on, the choking, the headlock, the threats, the intimidation, I'm not sure why petitioner had continued. Respondent wasn't going over to petitioner's house. Petitioner was going over to respondent's house and requesting to be let up into his apartment. And that happened for months throughout September, October, and November until they broke up, and even before then from September. Your Honor, there was also a threat, kick in the door. We don't have any proof of that. In where the petitioner had stated that the respondent had called her too many times, Mr. Siller isn't denying that. He knows that tensions were high. They just had broken up, and he was going through a phase. I think the court can understand that. And since then, there hasn't been any contact. He has gotten a new job. He's in a whole nother city. He hasn't called her. He hasn't texted her. Not only has Ms. Sundvik blocked him, he has blocked her. He has made a conscious decision to stay away, and he does not need an order of protection in order to do that. I think the message was very clear when he was served with that paperwork. And, some of these things, Your Honor, there really aren't exact dates on, which is why I'm calling into question the validity. I know, like, the chokehold was mentioned. Ms. Sundvik doesn't remember the exact date. I don't really even have a month for that. I think the text messages are clear in that Mr. Siller had been the one to break up with me. Although the relationship, they may have argued, it's clear in some of the text messages that Ms. Sundvik did not want to break up. And very clear, very soon after they broke up, he was served with a protection order, not during the relationship. After he had broken up with her, they had a disagreement over text messages, and she didn't like the disagreement. And so now Mr. Siller has to sit with us here today. So, Your Honor, in looking at the statute, I am asking the court not to find that petitioner had met their burden and deny the petition.
And any rebuttal, Mr. Drury?
Just briefly, I guess. I mean, number one, Miss Sunvik and Miss Thompson's testimony is evidence, and that can be used by the court, obviously, as proof of abuse. So there is proof here. Sure, we have somebody that's in a domestic violence relationship that can't provide text message proof of this abuse. I don't see too many cases where abusers write out their abuse in text messaging and forward that, other than some harassment cases where there might be some threats. This happened in conversations, as it usually does. This happened in a relationship during intimate times, when only my client and her abuser were there. My client was intimidated. This is not a unique situation. She testified, I think, about looking at her testimony about the things she could recall in those certain situations, the things that were said to her. And the fact that she reported this a month and a half, 2 months before she ever came forward to another individual, I don't see defense alleging some type of, the creation from my client. Why would she hold on to this that long? Why would she create it back then? And if she was lying and then bring it out now, 2 months later, that doesn't make any sense. We've put forward a situation where she was counseled by a friend and finally had enough at her young age to come forward and finally put an end to this. And there's enough corroborative evidence here to substantiate what occurred. The video of her dashboard that was beat in by the defendant, the dates with the text messages, things like that. The way Miss Thompson described that last day of work between my client and Mr. Siller. Mr. Siller described in his declarations the last day of work that was fanciful. Everything was fine. They were playful again. That is not the last day of work that Ms. Thompson described, where he was basically lurking around my client, following him around and being inappropriate with her at work, and that she was highly annoyed. The balance of the evidence suggests that domestic violence occurred here. I think we've met our burden. And again, it's my client that needs this order. Regardless of whether Mr. Siller needs it, my client needs it for her protection.
Let me just pause here before I make a ruling. Review a few things here. Back at, excuse me, just looking back at 7105. I was re-reviewing, given the recent changes. All right, so Mr. Stiller, Ms. Sunbeck, then at this stage, the court is issuing an order under RCW 7105 and under the domestic violence laws. And I kind of map out what my reasoning is here. I've heard obviously a lot of testimony and read a lot of good information supplied by the parties here. I find there's credible testimony presented through the petitioner, through her witness of previous assaults in a relationship, threats within a relationship, malicious mischief or damage to personal property in a relationship that qualifies as acts of domestic violence against Ms. Sudbig by Mr. Siller. And in weighing all this evidence, I've heard credible testimony from Mr. Siller and reviewed his declaration. I'm not putting a whole lot of weight into Isaac's declaration, but am taking it into consideration, certainly because he lived in this household. However, for both Ms. Thomas and the brother, Isaac, there's question, I think, from all of us as to what they observed and what they heard instead. And there's that familial relationship that may undercut some of the motive there. Whereas Ms. Thomas, I find a bit more credible in that simply a coworker, not personally involved with either of these parties. Her testimony as to what she saw on I think it was around November 14th at work, and her testimony of what she heard from the petitioner, because she isn't, there wasn't any testimony, any information, any evidence that would undercut and give any bias as to why she would tell untruths or trying to get Mr. Siller in trouble or try to make him lose his job, or somehow that would undercut credible testimony and show bias. Now that the temporary restraining order worked is good. And that's what we expect to go forward. Mr. Siller, is that you follow court orders and you don't have a history of not doing that. And I'm glad that worked. But again, that your willingness is not really what the court takes into consideration when trying to determine whether an order should issue under RCW 7105. Was there domestic violence? I find there's sufficient evidence, credible evidence presented that you did commit acts of domestic violence against Ms. Sundvig during that relationship, and that there's preponderance of the evidence of that and preponderance of the evidence that this order is needed to prevent any further and to protect Ms. Sundvig. So I'm going to make this for 1 year from today, January 9th of 2024. And it will expire on its own unless there's some motion from either party for the court to take it up and consider it either to terminate it or to modify it, or in advance of its expiration to renew it. But there are burdens that need to be shown by the petitioner and evidence to be taken from both sides again, should there need to be a renewal. And it's not just renewed by a judge signing it up again. There's another hearing had and then a full set of information taken and consideration weighed. So give me a moment to, I don't intend that this order be any different than the temporary order. So I'm pulling that up here. As to that, Mr. Drury, anything to say?
Sorry, if I could just review the petition real briefly, see if there's
I'm
anything
going to have the
requested.
same as my SAC, so take the time to look at things.
Looks like my client asked for 1 year, which the court ordered. It doesn't look like there's a firearms ownership as far as we're aware of, but she does show some indications of fear of him acquiring firearms. And she does ask for an evaluation for mental health. I would say there's been some testimony about that and some corroborative evidence regarding, I understand that a breakup can be very emotional, but when we're calling
Are you
somebody,
asking for changes from the temporary order in any way? What do you, maybe you can, if there are changes, maybe you
I'm
can give
I'm
me that
asking
as a
for,
headline and take it from there.
oh, I'm sorry. No real changes from that. I mean, she asked for 1 year, but I believe she is asking for some either mental health evaluation, Your Honor.
All right, so that's what you're asking, that we change from the temporary order. So Ms. Mysack?
Your Honor, Mr. Stiller doesn't have any firearms, so whatever the court decides with that, we're okay with. Your Honor, Mr. Stiller doesn't need a mental health evaluation. Did he go to the mental hospital that night? Yes, it was directly after a breakup when tensions were high. Been how much time since then? There hasn't been any incidents. I don't believe that the court needs to make him go do a mental health evaluation. I think a protection order is more than enough.
And I agree. And also I don't find there's a preponderance of the evidence that I should be ordering Mr. Siller into any kind of treatment. I'm simply going to sign off in this order that says, Mr. Siller, don't have any contact with Ms. Sundbeck. It looks like you've taken efforts already to make sure that that's not going to happen. Make sure she's out of your phone, don't have any surprise phone calls or surprise emails that you didn't anticipate. Don't contact her through social media, through family, through friends, in any way, through your work. And let me just pay attention to this order quickly so that I can, it's very right back here. So obviously, I'm ordering that you not commit any physical harm, bodily injury, assault, non-consensual sexual contact, or non-consensual sexual contact. Don't harass, threaten, or stalk Ms. Sundbeck. And as I said, don't attempt to contact her in any way, shape, or form. And stay away, 1,000 feet away from wherever you know she is, from her residence and her employment. Sure, this is mirroring what we talked about before. Yes. All right, so attorneys, I've signed off on this protection order. It's in effect, as I said, 1 year from today, January 9, 2024. And this is in the court file. Don't require services. Both of you have been here and both your parties have been here. It's in the court file, available to all parties through your Zoom instructions. Anything else, Mr. Drury?
That's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you for your time.
Ms. Mysack?
Nothing more for respondent, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Then all parties can be on your way today.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And then Ms. Stoddard.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you're there. Mr. Clark is here.
Yes,
And we're
I'm here.
taking up the other case 22352, and let me just get my information before me before I continue on. All right, so whoops, Mr. Clark, you still with us?
Yes, I'm still here. Sorry, I'm just making my way into work. It went longer than I thought.
Okay, why don't you get yourself somewhere where you can settle?
Yep, I'm settled right now.
You're stopped, you're not driving?
Yep, I'm stopped right now.
Okay, good. All right. So, previously everyone said they were ready. Of course, probably didn't expect that you'd be here through the morning and you're on your way to work. Mr. Clark, you still prepared to take this up?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And then, Ms. Stoddard, ready to take things up?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay, all right. So we're here on case number 22352. Ms. Stoddard was granted a temporary protection order against Mr. Clark, and this was served on the 5th. Now, today is the 9th, and let's see. You've had everyone, if I remember correctly, everyone had a chance to look at everything in the court file. All right, so let me put Ms. Stoddard, raise your right hand with me if you would. I'm going to put you under oath. Ms. Stoddard, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Clark, if you'd raise your right hand. Thanks. Do you swear to tell the truth, Mr. Clark, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So I've read, I had an opportunity to review the petition, the exhibits that have been filed. Get those up. And again, I'm looking to another screen as I look at your file. And if there's something you want me to look at an exhibit, please tell me what you're looking at so everyone is knowing what we're talking about. But Ms. Stoddard, I've read your petition. I've looked at the exhibits. Is there anything else or in particular or something new that you want the court to know? You don't have to rehash all of the things that you've already presented unless there's something you want the court to focus in on.
No, I was just reviewing the file and I noticed that there was also a handwritten note that was slipped through my door that wasn't uploaded. I think maybe I missed that, but I did forward it to the clerk, but it looks like it was missed. So I just wanted to mention that.
Okay, did we get something new? Looking at my clerk, something new filed. And you filed it how?
I filed it, I emailed it to the clerk along with other exhibits, but I think maybe it was missed because and it was, yeah, it's handwritten.
Okay. And Mr. Clark, you didn't file anything in response, did you?
No, I haven't.
And that's fine. I just want to be sure that I've got what I got.
Thank you.
Right. The only email we got with exhibits was on the 6th of January, and we did receive several items. Did you do a separate send sending of information, or you're saying that you thought was included in that we received on the 6th in the morning?
Yeah, I thought it was included, but I think that I missed it.
Okay.
I thought I saw
All
it
right.
because the clerk had me review everything, and I thought I saw it when I reviewed it, but I just looked recently and I noticed it wasn't there, and it was too late. So, but I just wanted to mention that.
All right, well, you can tell me about it, or if you think it's so persuasive that you want more time to deal with it and get it into the court and get it to Mr. Clark, we can talk about that too, or you can just.
Yeah, I'd be happy to tell you about it. No problem.
Okay, all right. So let me just have to click deeply into everything, and now that I've sort of got myself reorg here. All right, so why don't you go ahead with what you want the court to think about or look at or no?
So basically just everything that I submitted. There was a night on December 27th that I didn't answer Brian's phone call in a timely manner, according to him, even though when he called, I sent him a text message stating that I was working, so I wasn't going to be able to talk to him. And when I did call him back a couple hours later, he was obviously upset and angry that I didn't return his phone call. And he demanded that I call him in the future, that I pick up the phone when he calls. No matter if I'm busy or not, I need to at least answer his phone call and inform him verbally that I'm busy. And I stated that was unreasonable. I sent you a text that I'm busy. I don't need to pick up your phone call and verbally announce that I'm busy. I just felt like that was controlling and unreasonable. And I informed him of that, and he wouldn't accept it. He wanted to keep arguing over the phone, saying that's not a big deal, you know, and just keep fighting and fighting over the phone. And I just wanted it to be over. So I tried to end the phone call. I said, good night. I'm going to go enjoy my night. Please stop. I don't want to fight. And he hung up the phone and called right back, I guess, wanting to fight more. I'm not sure, but I wasn't accepting his phone call. So after that, he sent a text a little bit later that said, I want my laptop. And at this point, I knew he was just using an excuse to come and talk.
I've read all of this in your petition. That's kind of what I'm getting at here, is you did a very good attachment that's readable and detailed. Is there something other than what I've already looked at, or do you want me to focus in on something? Because I've already read all of this information that you presented. I kind of wanted to focus in, and you said there's something new. Well, you got something under the door.
My main issue is that the last time I spoke to Brian was December 28th, when I, announced that this relationship was over. His behavior at my door was super scary and made me feel uncomfortable. And I was just in shock that this whole thing even happened. I didn't know that this was in him, and he's not the person I thought he was. And so I asked him not to contact me anymore. And he continued to contact me, so I blocked his number. After I blocked his number, I guess there's an app where you can download different phone numbers. He continued to text me with, I don't even know how many phone numbers he used to continue to text me. Probably maybe up to 20, because I kept every time he sent a text, I kept blocking it, and he would immediately download another number and text me again. And so that's when I filed for the protection order, because I felt like I was being harassed and I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel safe that night he came to my door unannounced. So
7th, called at work, came to your door. On the 28th was the last time you spoke with him. And when I look at the exhibits that the attachments to your petition, they're all text messages.
mm-hmm. If you notice the text messages, they're all different numbers, because I blocked his normal number.
When did those come in? Sometime between the time you got the temporary restraining order and the 28th, when you said no?
Yes, it was at the time that I got the protection order, and then up to January 4th. So I asked him not to contact me on the 28th, and he continued contacting me and using various sources up until January 4th. And I believe he may have stopped because the Mason County Sheriff called him to request that he come and pick up his paperwork.
And there's discussion throughout this about, you still have my stuff. What was that about?
He stated that I had his Australian candy, his half bottle of liquor, and a pair of pants and 2 shirts. I looked all through my apartment because I didn't want to have anything else to do with him. There was no clothes. I threw away the candy and threw away the alcohol.
What about the laptop we're starting to talk about?
Oh, he got the laptop that night. So when he came to my door yelling and screaming and then requesting his laptop, and I wanted to give him his laptop and the rest of his stuff because basically I was done with this relationship. I just couldn't believe the way he was acting. I didn't even know. It was surreal and I was in shock. So I started gathering all of his stuff, including his laptop. But the thing is, I knew it was a bad idea for me to open that door. Because of the way he was acting, it scared me. I didn't know what to do. I knew I wanted to give him his stuff, but I knew I shouldn't open the door. So finally, after a while, when I was sure that he walked off, I placed all of his items outside the door. And during this time, he was calling and texting, banging on my door, calling and texting. So I picked up one of his phone calls and I said, all of your stuff is outside the door, take it and leave. So he came to pick up his laptop and the rest of his stuff, and then he wouldn't leave. He continued banging on my door, demanding for me to open it, saying I'm being ridiculous, calling me names, effing B this, effing B that, saying I need therapy and I need help, just outlandish. And this is at the top of his lungs. He's screaming at the top of his lungs. I called my friend. I FaceTimed my friend because I just didn't know what to do. He wouldn't leave, even after he got his laptop.
And I think you included that as well in your exhibits.
Yeah, so I FaceTimed my friend because I was scared and I just didn't know what to do. I just wanted someone there with me.
So how did that resolve?
I'm sorry?
How did that event resolve?
He went back to his car, I guess, to get a Christmas gift that I gave him. And he threw it at my door and said, take your cheap $20 sunglasses back. I'm done with you. Just some more yelling and screaming, cussing, calling me names. And then he finally left.
Okay. And then that was the
27th.
When? 27th?
27th that night.
Okay, and then you came to the court on the 30th.
Yes.
And that was granted. Okay. 27th was a Tuesday night, and then you got your Friday. Okay. All right. The last time you spoke was on the 28th, and all right, I think I got that. So I interrupted you a bit. Anything else?
That's okay. Well, the last time I spoke to him was the 28th, just requesting him not to contact me anymore. And then he just continued to text me, like I said, with all sorts of different numbers, emailing me. He tried sending me an Instagram message, just complete disrespect of my boundaries. It was just, I was just so appalled, and I just didn't feel safe. Like, I don't even know who this person is. I met him a year and a half ago online. We've been off and on since. There's been flags that, red flags that I ignored. Obviously, I should have kept it, I shouldn't have gone back the first time. But, I saw the signs and I just believed him when he said he was going to change and get better. But it just got worse and worse and worse. And honestly, I don't know what he's capable of, and I have no interest in finding out. So I just want him to leave me alone. He has a problem with respecting boundaries. He has a problem with impulse control, self-control. I just don't think he's going to be able to on his own, because he's proven he hasn't been able to. Sorry, excuse me.
All right, so since the temporary restraining order, anything occur?
I basically had to change my phone number because he wouldn't stop texting me with all the sorts of these numbers. It was giving me like mild panic attacks, anxiety, and stress.
This was before or after the temporary restraining order was issued?
After the temporary restraining order.
And so.
And this was maybe like 5 days after.
This wasn't served until the 5th of January. But
yes, they were having complications locating him because he moved in with his mom, and I've never been to his mom's house, and I don't have his mom's address.
Before Thursday, he was contacting you?
Yes, up to January 4th.
Okay.
And what really, I mean, I was always feeling uncomfortable and unsafe since the night he came to my door. But the fact that I asked him not to ever come to my apartment again on the 27th, and he said, I won't. And then he actually showed up at my apartment door again, slipped a note through my door mentioning a concern for my health. He said something like, hey, I need to see you. I need you to come talk to me and see me because there's something that I'm worried about with our health.
Okay. And when around did that happen?
I believe that was January.
So the first was
1st.
Okay.
Yeah, it was January 1st because that was the day I was trying to host my daughter's birthday party. And I had that note slipped through my door.
All right. And he was not yet served till the 5th. Okay. All right.
And then after that, he also sent, I think, emails January 3rd. Sent emails also mentioning something with his health, saying he's super sick and he needs me to come talk to him.
And you've included those, I believe. Those
yes.
Yeah, you've included those as exhibits. All right.
Yes. And I believe obviously this was just a desperate way for me to go back in contact with him and see him for whatever reason.
And since Thursday, though, you haven't received any texting, emails, Instagram, anything in particular, notes under the door?
No, I don't believe I've received anything ever since January 4th.
Okay. Before I turn to Mr. Clark, is there anything else?
Just that Brian, and I've always known this, that Brian struggles a lot with emotional and mental stability. I've tried helping him through this, and basically the only thing that's happened is he's gotten worse and worse. He's always had problems controlling his anger and his actions towards his anger. I'm just happy that I got out now, but Brian also has a hard time moving past things. He kind of ruminates and kind of almost creates these stories in his head where he just boils inside, and then he kind of he reacts to it later on. So I don't know. I just don't feel safe. I feel like he's always going to find a way to harass me, because basically I've been harassed for the past 2 weeks. He doesn't stop. I guess that's all I want to say.
All right.
Also, Your Honor, I have 2 small kids, and I don't want to have to worry about them too.
We did not include them in the temporary order.
I mentioned it in the temporary order. There was a section
petition, but it wasn't included in the order. They weren't included in the order. How old are your kids?
9 and 12.
Okay. All
And
right.
thankfully, my kids were with their dad that night that he tried to come over.
Okay.
So they haven't observed any of this. I was always unsure about Brian. There was always something about him that just made me feel unsettled, I guess. So I kind of distanced my kids from him. They didn't really go into that much contact with Brian, just because I just wasn't sure. There was something a little off. So I didn't feel comfortable. There's maybe a few, when I first started dating him, it was a little bit more often, but then when we got back together recently, I made sure that they had more distance. Since we've been together, they've seen him one time.
All right. So let me turn to Mr. Clark. This request that this order continue. I guess the first question is, your response to all of this, frankly.
Well, I just want to start off by saying I'm sorry to Justina for continuing to contact her. It wasn't right of me to continue to contact her, and I know that, and I was worried about getting some of my things back that I thought she still had, and I believe her that she doesn't have them. I'm willing to let that go. I don't want to deal with that anymore. I don't want to be in a relationship with her anymore. I don't want to continue anything. I apologize for how I continued to try and contact her because I thought she still had some of my stuff. Even if she does, it doesn't matter to me anymore. I'm completely over it, and I feel bad for how I reacted. And I felt like we were pretty close, and we've had an on and off relationship for almost 2 years, and she has in the past blocked me and unblocked me and like contacted me after she blocked me, and so even though I was out of bounds, we've had that blocking and unblocking. She's done that several times over our relationship, and it's one of the things I've asked her to not do, because even if we're still in a relationship, she gets mad and she just blocks me and cuts me off, and I have no way to talk to her. And that night that if things went down, I was just asking her if she could just, because she was in the middle of talking to me at her lunch, and she said she had to go really quick and she was calling me later after she gets off, and because she had something pop up. And I said, that's fine. And she didn't contact me until later that night. And then I asked her she thought I was irritated. I was a little bit, but I was just trying to move past it. And she kept asking me. So I told her, I was like, maybe if you could, I would like it if you could, call me back when you say you call me back. And it turned into a thing where I'm not doing that. I'm not, and I wasn't trying to be controlling, but it turned into that's what she felt like it was. And I understand that, but that's not what I was trying to do. And we got into an argument and spiraled into that. And I think you can even see in the text messages, I just asked her to retrieve my laptop so I could work on one of my resumes, because it doesn't matter, because she would berate me about where I am in life and how I'm doing, and that I moved back in with my mom for a little bit. But I was trying to improve myself to help our relationship, and I was just asking if I could retrieve my laptop for the night. It wasn't like I'm coming to get my stuff. And she didn't answer my text messages. And so in the past, she would come over to my place unannounced and just pop in, and that's fine. And so I was maybe she was busy, and I knew her kids weren't there. So I knew no one was there. So I was just going to come by and grab my laptop. Maybe she didn't see my message, but I heard voices as I was walking up that weren't hers. I knocked on the door and everything's silenced, but I could see her car's there and I could see the lights are on. I could tell that she's there, but she wouldn't respond at all. And I thought something had happened to her or something was wrong with her. That's why I was continuing to knock and raise my voice, because I was concerned about what was going on with her, because she refused to answer the door. And then I finally just left, and I called her and texted her, and then she finally responded and saying that all my stuff is outside. And I had no idea what the context or why it even happened. And that was basically saying she's done with everything, and she wouldn't talk to me. And said, when I got to the door, I said, hey, there's still some stuff that you didn't put out here. So I wanted just the rest of my stuff so we could call it, and she wouldn't do it. And I shouldn't have continued to try and talk to her. I should have left, but I continued to try and contact her and tell her, just give me my stuff and we can call it quits. And then I left, And then I continued to try and contact her because I thought she still had some of my things. And instead of trying to go to law enforcement about it, I was just trying to get in touch with her and just trying to get her to get my stuff back so we can move on, because I was thinking that maybe it was going to spiral into another relationship like we had before, where it just continues on and we just keep going through the same pattern. I didn't want that. But I do apologize to her for doing that. And I feel really bad. I don't want her to think that I'm going to try and follow her around or anything like that. I just wanted to conclude our relationship, and I had no idea that it was that far or going that far, that where she was wanted to get a restraining or a court order against me. I didn't know that. I had no clue. And as soon as I had figured that out, I stopped, and I didn't, I feel bad for making her uncomfortable, and I really care about her. I know I shouldn't have done that, but I don't think that this is necessary, because I've even tried before to do couples counseling with us, and I'm waiting in line for therapy just so I can be a better person for us and to make things work. But I don't think it's necessary for this to happen, because I don't want to continue things, and I don't want my things back, and there's no reason for me to contact her, and I will not contact her anymore. And I'm really sorry for continuing to reach out, and I deeply apologize for that.
Right.
Your Honor,
Ms. Stoddard?
his statement that he was concerned for me doesn't really make sense when he was yelling and screaming at me, demanding me to open the door while he was calling me effing B that and effing B that. That doesn't really show that he was caring for my safety.
So I have to apply the law to this. This is not a good situation. I understand why you asked the court for an order, but we're talking about a time frame of about a week. When Mr. Clark was served with this, I see, by January 5th. So I have to apply the law to a preponderance of the evidence as the petitioner showed that there's a knowing and willful course of conduct directed at you with the intent to harass, annoy, be detrimental, that serves no legitimate or lawful purpose under the law. I mean, there's several components. Now, I don't find that there's sufficient evidence for the court to issue an order, but I think this has been very useful. Mr. Clark, Ms. Stoddard wants nothing to do with you. She doesn't want to hear from you. She doesn't want to hear from your family, your friends. She doesn't want to hear anything about your life. Doesn't want you to contact her in a year and say, oh, I'm much better or I'm much worse. Doesn't want anything to do with you. She's done. And she's made that clear. It seems kind of at the end of a relationship, didn't act the best way you should. If the law doesn't let me issue orders when people are being obnoxious, being ugly, being rude, being overbearing, and there has to be a finding of preponderance that there was no legitimate or lawful purpose. There was some property exchange here. There was the end of a relationship. There was confusion and emotions running high. And I don't see a history that would allow under the law to issue this. So what this means is the order ends now. But again, Mr. Clark, don't contact Ms. Stoddard. She doesn't want anything to do with you. So
I will not.
Obviously, if there were to be anything more, Ms. Stoddard, you can always, I would hope there wouldn't be. Mr. Clark, I think there's been a good lesson, good instruction. But
yeah.
Ms. Stoddard, you can come back to the Superior Court, you can come back to the District Court, you can come back to your municipal court and apply with any, I hope not, but if there's other further information, then at that point there'd be a pattern and it would be looked at, this would be looked at in concert with later. So write up an order that does away with the temporary order. But again, Mr. Clark, don't contact Ms. Stoddard. All right.
I will not. And I just wanted to tell Justina I'm really sorry for doing that, and I won't contact her anymore. And I wish her the best, and I'm really, really sorry. That's all I want to say.
Okay, I think you got that across. So Ms. Stoddard, any questions?
Nope, that is everything. Thank you for your time. I hope that Brian will be able to control himself and really will actually stay away from me and leave me alone. And that's it.
Okay, I think we've made that clear. So Mr. Clark, any questions?
Nope. Thank you so much for your time.
All right. All right, you can both be on your way. Thank you. Have a better rest of the day.
Thank you.